Chris, I must say something. I am in love with how you presented your company on social, like
Oh,
putting
thank you.
the DNA out there, putting your values out there, what you guys are about. Love that.
Well, thank you.
When did you come up with the idea, sort of like highlighting the values in your company? Is that something that just general you guys are all about the values and you all about the DNA and the company culture? Is that the entire brand is built on that, or it's more like a marketing strategy because you've realized that that's what need to highlight for your clients to engage with you and so on and so forth? So tell me about the decision behind this.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, we're up against, there's a lot of agencies out there, a lot of visual production companies, and always trying to stand out and be unique and different and give a potential client a kind of flavor of who we are and what we do and how we might help them out. And
Mhm.
I think it's been important for us to really kind of try to find things that we can highlight that we believe in, that we think are powerful and interesting, that set us apart, but also too, we feel like we kind of talk about that because there's things that we look back on, like, why did we start? And sometimes you start an agency or you start a business and you kind of want to do it because you're good at that skill, but like, what are you really trying to solve and go and figure out? And I think we had started it originally for a reason, and then we started morphing and changing it for different
Mhm.
reasons. And a lot of that came from pain points that we were a part of, meetings that we're sitting in being like, I wish we would have communicated that or said that, or like, why do we
Yeah.
always go towards this direction? And I think it's important to kind of highlight that. And I think, even the stuff that we have out there right now, it's always, we're still honing that and crafting that and trying to develop that.
Yeah. What you mentioned the reason. What was the initial intention to kicking off your own business in the video production, advertising creation industry?
Yeah. So it started out
What
with,
inspired you?
I started with, I originally went in the feature film world and was working on a pretty decent sized feature film. And I was surrounded by
Mhm.
some guys that had done, 100, $200 million films. And I love the quality, I love what we were able to do, but did not like the
Mhm.
lifestyle being on the road for 8 months. And so started
Right.
thinking, like, what if we take the same kind of level of quality that we're doing
Mhm.
here, but like do it on a more commercial-esque realm where we can have a little more attainable, maybe have some family, have kids, and like have a lifestyle. And so that was kind of the original start with that. And I think from there we really, we kind of came from a scrappy nature of like doing a lot of short films and even movies on, or like with a tight budget. And so we took a lot of that philosophy into how we made commercials. And I think that really started, seeing how other agencies do it. Like, that's not their mode. They're not about being scrappy, especially the big agencies.
Mhm.
It's a lot of people on the agency side on there getting a lot of input. You have a lot of kind of layers, and to me it just became really inefficient. So we started becoming like, let's be really efficient, let's be cinematic, let's tell a story that's really captivating, but try to do it in a way that we can really utilize our clients resources well. And I think that was something that kind of became a driving force, and then there's other things down the line that kind of influenced us as well, but those are kind of some starting points for
Mhm.
us.
Um, on LinkedIn, I saw that you are a co-founder. How many co-founders you have?
Just two. So it's
Just
me
two.
and
So you guys
Sean.
are two. Yeah.
Started in New York. Yeah.
Mhm. So can you speak to the sort of like the value of the partnership? Because you've been doing this for 10 years, and obviously you guys must have had some hard times along the way, right? And
Yeah.
I am also was fortunate to have a co-founder, and I always tell how, again, fortunate I was to having someone that understands me, that I'm not alone in this, right?
Mhm.
So can you share with me and the audience about your relationship with Sean, and just generally, like, how do you guys work together, and what's the sort of like the partnership value that and then how it, maybe with an example, how it helped to to get where you guys are right now with Colormatics 10 years after.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's funny. So I remember starting out. I've had a couple of other companies with partnerships that kind of went awry in the past.
Mhm.
And talking to some people who are pretty successful in business, they're like, don't have a partner, just go for it at your own. And I always liked having that partnership, even though it's difficult. It's nice to be able to, like you said, bounce ideas off each other. And also too, I actually started Colormatics originally, and then as I got into it, I realized, man, there's a lot of things I'm just not good at, and I think
Yeah.
I need to fill in some gaps. And especially when you're starting out, it's nice to have,
Mhm.
you don't have the money typically to pay for someone. So it's you really start saying like, is there someone around me that I could partner with that could help build this? And Sean initially, I was really kind of the more director, kind of visual person,
Mhm.
could, bring everything together. We started mainly as a production company. And he was really good at writing and contracts and producing. And we just really had we did a few projects kind of externally. We had a mutual friend and started doing some projects together. We're like, man, this is actually a good fit. Why don't we join forces and really build this together? And for a long time, it was really that I was, the director, kind of creative. Sean would really work on the business side of things, develop that out. And, we had different roles kind of on set or with client
Mhm.
interaction. And sometimes like as we've grown, like those have really changed and morphed. He's still really good at business stuff, but he's also, we found he's amazing creative. Like just his ideas and pitching and like who he is really surpasses me. And so I think it's really seeing, trying to with a especially a co-founder and as you work and grow, it's how do you keep your roles, complementary, but also like each one
Yeah.
living in your own strong suit. And I think as we develop and grow and do bigger projects and get more advanced, we start seeing like, man, maybe I'm good at this, and maybe I'm not as good as on this part that I thought of. And it's really nice having someone to do that with and be able to give real time feedback. Because I think
Mhm.
it's when you have employees, they're not always going to want to give you like the hard
The
criticism.
hard truth, yeah.
And I think having a co-founder or someone in that same level as you, they can really speak
Mhm.
into that. And we've had some tough conversations and we've really pushed each other. There's times we've been really angry. There's times we've been, super happy and like have like some of our best days together. I think it's almost like a marriage in a way. It's like a
Yeah.
deep relationship where you really learn a lot about each other. And ideally you really keep on complimenting each other. And I think I still really enjoy it. I mean, if I ever start another company, I'd want to have someone else that I partner with as well.
Yeah.
I like that aspect of things, and I think it's definitely been very beneficial. And even we got some of our bigger projects. He really was able to bring that in and land those, and
Mhm.
that's something that it would have been it was a game changer for us, and like I would not have been able to do it. And so I think just seeing that, like, wow, I need him, he needs me. I think that's really important for a company
Yeah.
like ours.
Do you think that the way you build a relationship with your co-founder Sean also affected the way you guys build the company culture? Because you sort of like how you treat your employees, how you kind of find people, how you work with them, and if yes, then in what way? What kind of um, how the relationship that you have translated into the bigger team operations that you guys have been running?
Totally. Good question. For us, we didn't come from the agency world, even though like we're running an agency now. So like we come from a different mindset and different point of view. And I think one of the point of views are not only being lean and really efficient with dollars, is also really just being transparent and honest and giving good feedback all the time, but also being receptive on that feedback. And I think for one of our
Mhm.
cultures is we try to develop a place where people can really, no matter where you're at, like give feedback on creative, give feedback on ideas, and not feel like they're going to get shot down. Or, we try to open up to where people can give, tough feedback to someone above them, and to be transparent and honest, but also to be receptive and kind to each other as well in that
Mhm.
process. And I think another thing with Sean and I is not to be competitive with each other. And I think in agency world, it's easy to be competing with your coworkers because you want to get, that
Yeah.
next rung up, and trying to develop a place where it's like, we're building this together. It takes a lot of people to make these commercials and these campaigns. And, if someone's really standing out being like, look what I did, it's all about them. We really kind of squash that down a little bit. It's
Yeah.
like, no, it's about the team. It's us coming together. No one's a hero here. Um, but still being encouraging and highlighting that. I think so. Like and two, our personalities are very different, and so I think we kind of bring out different parts of our personality into our employee culture.
Mhm.
One of the things I really like to do is we have a lot of fun on set. Like one of our things is we've constantly had people say this is one of the funnest days I've had all year. And I think it's, we have another partner that came on a little later. Him and I have known each other for years. We love to joke around, have fun, and just keeping it light and like friendly on set when things can get intense. I think is really
Yeah.
important, and I think that's something that kind of came from me that Sean doesn't necessarily have. But like he's funny, but he can write funny, but he's not necessarily, he doesn't want to always joke around. I just want to joke with clients, crew. We're just laughing the whole time
Right.
and getting stuff done. And I think that's something in my culture that, like, let's play some music, let's jam, let's have, it's like, let's create something that's entertaining for everybody that everyone can be engaged and feel comfortable with. So those are some things kind of trickle down to our employees.
I love that. So having that this kind of atmosphere in the company, this company culture, does it translate into any business metrics? Like, for example, you guys have better employee retention. You guys have better, NPS, ENPS, some other things. Like, have you been measuring like the tactic, the approach that you used? How did it affect, the business side of things?
hmm I think, one of the couple things, we haven't done like a formal investigation of it, but what has stood out has been a lot of our clients keep on coming back year after year. And I think clients we've had since our inception we're still working with them, which I think says a lot. Because I think, you have a lot of turnover a lot of times in agencies. And I think it's important to see that. And I think just even, I think even through Clutch and through the different reviews, people giving a lot of reviews to talk about. I think that's people who are willing to give reviews and talk in depth about their experience. I think we kind of really we analyze a lot of what they say and just make sure that we're aligned. And then if something is, we missed opportunity, we really try to fix that. But then I think our employees really, we have an amazing retention rate with our employees. And I think one of the things we talk about for our culture too is creating like a flexible place to work. Because I remember when I was a kid, in 20s, 30s, like trying to build my career, I had all these other projects and things I wanted to moonlight on and do. And I worked at a place where they didn't let me do that. And I really fought that.
Yeah.
And for us, we really try to say like, hey, we'll help you. You can use our resources, use our gear, our computers to build your own, personal projects and develop that out. And so creating an environment that's engaging, open, and trustworthy, but also too that you can be creative and have flexibility to go do personal projects. Especially people who are creative, they want to be able to explore and spread their wings. And I think that's really important to keep people working with us and
Mhm.
feeling valued and that they can like thrive here
Yeah.
and grow.
Interesting. You've you've mentioned and highlighted creativity and the importance of creativity for your organization for again a few times already. And at the same time, you started off with being lean. Like we came from the industry where you need to be lean with regards to how you're spending, but then you need to be creative. How do you combine being lean and efficient with the creativity? And like explain to me how these two things can coexist, and then what should I do to get those two things
Right,
coexist? Like, is
totally,
there any
totally.
secret there?
Good, yeah, good question. I think for us, if you look at a typical agency that does maybe what we do, maybe, like a bigger agency, they would typically have like creative people that come with ideas, and maybe you have a lot of copywriters and writers that work together.
Right.
Once that, you pitch it to clients, and then once that's done, you go out and find a director. The director, brings in his production company. There's a lot of layers there that I think make it inefficient. I think there's a big benefit to having the flexibility to go choose any director, have a big director on a roster, or having a lot of people write. For us, we keep everything in house. So the people that write are also the ones that pitch. People that write might be on set as well. They might produce. They might be a part of the camera crew. And then the people that, like, I'm a director. We have a couple of directors on staff. We're part of those pitches as well. So there's not that handoff process where it takes a lot of time. We're all working
Right.
together and we have a common goal. And then all the creation of that happens in house as well. We might scale up on a big, some of these sets might be, 150, 200 people. So we're not going to have all those people on staff, but all the key
Mm,
roles are really coming from us. And I think it helps be creative when you can. I think the handoff is where you lose a lot of things, and there's a lot of time communicating like, hey, here's my
yeah.
vision. But if you're part of that vision, helping create it, like I'm as a director, I'm a lot of times from the beginning there, which is very
Right.
rare. And I'm an owner of the company, so like I'm very invested in make sure this does really well and looks really good. So I think we're able to be really creative, but also have the team there that executes on it. And I think that there's things that are playing a game of telephone. You're not missing so many layers, and like that message can be communicated quicker and more efficient. And then we just have fewer people too. So we're not going to have
Yeah.
on a campaign, we were watching this um, uh, guy talk about making Little Caesars ads. And like, he sounded like he had about 15 writers or 10 writers on this team, and like, we have like two, so it's kind of like you have different, it'd be awesome to have that, but it's also, it costs a lot more too. You have
It's
15 people
unefficient.
writing, for a week. That's a lot of money. So,
Yeah.
and then too, I think when, even things of like, as we're going through it, we're not having, some of the agencies where we worked with, you'll have like 20, 30 people on the call, to kind of a status update. And that's just, those meetings are really expensive. If you really start taking all like everyone's time and adding it all up. And so we really try to say like, who really needs to be involved with this? And like, let's streamline it and be quick, and like be quick about how we talk about it, be,
Hmm.
deliver the right information. So everything we do, we try to really, every area we've really tried to kind of hone in,
Yeah.
and make it streamlined.
I love that. And now thinking about this, like really, like for you to have a creative person on the team, that person doesn't necessarily need to do the only one job. They can be good at several things at the same
Hmm.
time. So you don't need to kind of build out this team structure where you have one person doing this and then one at this, and then you look who will be creative, who won't be efficient, who will be doing the operation, rather than like having a small talent creative type of team doing a bunch of things together. um that's interesting. And I actually currently advising a an agency owner, and they have the problem with efficiency, like exactly what you just said. Like they're bringing on all the people on the call to meet the client, although some of those people don't need to be on the call, and that's not very efficient. And now listening to you, I understand that just generally it's obvious that having all of these minds together and having all these people doesn't necessarily translate into the actual good quality of the product, right? Sometimes
Totally.
just one person can take a shot and then other people can follow and just contribute as they go, right? So all right. Have you always been this? You mentioned that you guys have been from another industry. Is that something that you brought in with you? Is that something that's happening on the set? Like the people are wearing many hats and just kind of that's
I think it's kind of probably, Sean and I's ethos a little bit. Like I started out as a artist, moved into, like when Photoshop 2 came out, started getting into that and being like, wow, I can design, and then got into photography. And then, what really launched my career was design. And then I went into
mm,
direct photography and post production, and then started doing some animation. And for me, I really enjoyed being on set and then creating in that kind of that rhythm. And I'd had friends that were just editors, or friends that were just directors, or friends that were just producers, and they didn't do anything else. And I think that could be really beneficial for sure.
mhm.
Both Sean and I really enjoy having that multifaceted approach. And even um, all our employees, actually, even people that do post production, a lot of times they'll come out and set with us and be like, maybe they're really good at audio. They'll do audio recording, or they'll do um, they might help with word. I mean, something that maybe they don't normally do, but they're actually kind of skilled at that, and you can actually figure it out. We can train that up. I think it's just important to have that, for us, have that balance of not just doing the exact same thing all the time, but understanding kind of holistically. Not that you want to do everybody's a jack of all trades, but
Right.
having a couple of core things you're doing and wearing a couple different hats to where you kind of can stretch different muscles. And I think when you're creating and then making it, like there's just having different roles, you can see like, oh, maybe I should
Yeah.
have done that differently last time. Like if you're a guy, if you're a director of photography that always shoots and never edits, you might see your edits, but there's a lot of things you're not seeing about your shooting that maybe you
Mhm.
should see. And I think that really formed me a lot, going through like, man, why did I do that? Like I was rushed, and I made this choice. I should have done this, and I can
Yeah.
see that when I'm editing my own stuff. So I mean, as we grow, like I'm doing less of what I was doing before, just because we have more people to do that now. But I think it's still, we like that approach. I think it's kind of come from
Yeah.
kind of who we are a little bit.
Are there any roles in your company, or there are no roles in your company that are typically present in the other agencies in your industry? Like you guys have HR, recruitment. Like what are the roles that you decided to take off the roster?
Yeah, we have, I think good question. I mean, for us, it's definitely not, we haven't seen too many. I know that are out there, but it's not, you still have too many companies that have like director of photography on set or on like
Mhm.
staff.
Mhm.
Um, or like I mean directors on staff that also might do post production. So I think it's
Mhm.
kind of like we might have simpler titles, but a lot of these people kind of overlap.
Mhm.
And so I think that kind of gives us an advantage in a certain way. Like there's definitely, what makes us unique is our ability to conquer a pretty large task with a fewer amount of people than what another agency might require. Um, so yeah, I think we definitely, I think our roles might be similar from the outside, but like very different
Mhm.
on the inside of our
Mhm.
approach.
Mhm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, how does AI contribute to your production process? Like with Sora being out and just generally, what's your vision and how do you guys maybe using this technology right now to empower you? Because I've spoken with another co-founder with another founder from your industry, and he was very passionate about any development of the AI because his point was that it gives the opportunity for smaller studios to tap into the projects of the bigger budget, because if you want to get this amazing shot, you don't necessarily need to go to to Switzerland to get that shot, rather than you can do that from your laptop. So like what's your take on just the relationship of the AI in the in your business as well as just the industry in general?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we've definitely tried to embrace it as much as possible just because we want to learn and be able to use it as tools. You know, ChatGPT, of course, like, just helping that for this business, writing and stuff like that. Like, we've had a hard time getting it to be really creative with us. So we're still, I mean, that'd be great to help with ideation a little bit more. That's not so wonky. But um, I know a lot of our pitches, we're definitely using just image. It's always difficult when you're pitching a new concept that you can't just go find photos on, or like you trying before is like trying to make this mood board from all these other commercials or movies, and like it kind of
Yeah.
paints a picture. But now you can really see like here's this crazy scenario that we're like that we're doing. Like we did a commercial with a guacamole hot tub. Like it's hard to go find images of that. So like
Right.
with AI, we're able to kind of bring that together, and for the client, it really helps tell a story and gives them the confidence of like, yeah, we can do this. And then now, a lot. One thing we do too is called Boardmatics, is we take the storyboard and we put it VO and music. And we actually edit the commercial before we film it. And so now we're using more AI to do that, to kind of develop that out a little bit more, so that everyone on not only helps for the client, but it helps for the crew. Everyone knows exactly what we're filming. Here's the shots. Here's like the angles we're doing.
Mhm.
I think that really helps develop it out. And I think for us, we just thinking about like what the potential is for AI in our industry, and even thinking about for us, like there's things that I know right now that I could either we should be developing or I need to use that hopefully will come out, that a lot of tools that would really help expedite a lot of stuff, and help with kind of like the marketing in general, like seeing insights. But I think even in the camera area, I mean, like for cameras, I was even thinking about like, it'd be great if like I can have AI a part of my camera. It's like I can program certain things that I want to do, certain looks. And I think eventually there will be a time where a lot of stuff you don't have to film as much, but we'll probably also have the other side of like, hey, this was filmed, in camera,
Mhm.
and like you have that, it's like that vinyl versus digital feel. So I don't know. We're trying to embrace as much as possible and use it as
Mhm.
much as possible. And the video aspect of things, I've not been too pleased with yet. I think things are getting
Mhm.
better, but there hasn't been anything that I'm like, we keep on trying it, on a weekly
Mhm.
basis of like, could this work and this work in our level that we're doing? And majority of the time it's not, but it's definitely coming. And I think we'll be able to use some of that and have some resources that, we haven't had before. And I think even with, our some of our VFX and cleanup and like things we can do on adding things that like a big budget production would require, or we've worked with some of the monster VFX agencies, and be able to do some of the quality that they can
Mhm.
do at a fraction of the price would be really cool for us.
Yeah.
So we're excited about some of the things we're working on right now and some things that are out, but just the potential of that. So yeah, AI is definitely. I mean, it's
Yeah.
interesting. It's like it's exciting, and also it's a lot of question marks. Like, what will this look like in 5 or 10 years? Who will we need? Um, originally it was like we're gonna be a bunch of DJs, and like kind of like running all these different
Yeah,
AI things to make this kind of creative. But at the end of the day, it's really creativity, storytelling. You still
exactly.
have to have that, and you still have to guide that. You need these people to
Yeah,
really kind of run these
yeah,
things and make them do well.
yeah. So when the Chat GPT was out and this entire bath in the content with their like, hey, now you would attract traffic from the AI wrote content like blog posts, like content writers won't exist anymore, right? And what we've seen is actually
Right,
opposite.
froze. Yeah.
So all the companies that were all the companies that have been producing a AI or a generic programmatic content had been dropped in the traffic, and all the companies that do original content, original articles, the IP based ones are soaring and actually are generating more value, right? And the agencies that are providing a high quality, authentic work are doing great, and then those that were trying to just leverage AI and generic and programmatic are not. So I do believe with you that there's always room in the market for creativity and for authentic work, right?
Hmm.
Although there will be a lot of probably AI ads, and we would just technology would help us to skip through them, and they would just highlight those that are original and they're human made, right? So
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
totally.
Um, yeah. So I saw on your website you guys have a lot of eminent clients like American Express, Budweiser, Fever, Vanguard, the Macallan. Can you speak to your ideal client? Like you guys are working with big brands mostly, or you also are working with some startups? Where you guys at?
So we work with a pretty wide range of clients, and we have some local clients as well. We have some little small offices around the US. So it might be like a kind of localized client that we do work with. It could be regional, it could be
Mhm.
national. Um, for us, I think, the ideal client for us is someone who is kind of more in a hyper growth. They really want to grow fast and they want to do something creative and innovative and really stand out in the market. And I think that's where
Mhm.
we have really thrived on our bigger projects. And even on our smaller ones, I think companies that are willing to say, you know what, we're willing to take a little bit of a risk and do something that, we keep on working with companies that have done a similar thing for years and years and coming in and being like, hey, we can, here's your problem you're trying to solve. You're trying to sell this service or trying to attract these customers, or it's, you're trying to
Right.
persuade, it's persuasion, really. You're trying to persuade someone to do something. And, I think our tools, the tools we want to use are really, we want to maximize that persuasion. And I think we love the creative side of things and, humor. So I think companies that would embrace that and allow that are
Mhm.
definitely in our wheelhouse. It's something where, we've worked with startups before, and I think sometimes it's more like we're probably where we fit in is maybe like maybe their B round or C round. You need a little bit more cash influx to kind of do it. We're scrappy for sure, but like we don't always necessarily make the smaller or the simpler content. So I think just because of our process, we try to make something that's a little bit more mid tier, and
Mhm.
so but it kind of allows a lot of different clients, and like some of the stuff we've done for some of the bigger brands, it's not we're not definitely not the agency of record for them. It's like you're doing smaller projects, you're doing things that can fit in different departments. Fiverr, for instance, we've been able to do a lot of work with them over the years. We started working with them probably 8 years ago, and have done training videos, educational videos. We've done some of their national commercials. We've done some of the performance marketing. We've been we're on their website, like as people, our faces on our team. And that's a fun relationship. It's like they're trying to grow, but they're open to creativity, and they're open to like a lot of different aspects. um, so we've kind of honed in. I mean, there's a few industries that we've done work with, but I think
Mhm.
it's almost like more the mindset of the company. If it's something where it's like we want slow growth and we want to like just kind of do what we've been doing,
Yeah.
standardize, that's not really, we're not gonna be there.
Mhm.
They're not gonna want to come work with us.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that one of our strong suits is, good or bad, is we're able to, we've competed against a lot of large agencies, and how we've won is when the agencies like, okay, you know, you can't do that in that time frame. It's just not possible
Right.
at that level. And we're like, actually, we can do it. We've done like we did a pretty large production recently where we had 6 days from the concept got locked, and then we had to hire all the cast, find locations, shoot it within
Yeah.
6 days. And like,
No
a big
way.
a big agency could not pull it off. I mean, it was crazy for us. Um, but we've worked with like, massive celebrities where we had like a 2 week time period to go from here's our concept. We had one where we worked with Stephen Curry on, and we it was a partnership with this crypto company, and Stephen Curry was going to be announced to be a part of it. And they're like, okay, you start writing, coming up with ideas. We're going to start figuring out what he wants to do. So we came up with all these concepts. We actually booked out a stadium in San Francisco, like a basketball stadium, because we're like, oh, he's going to,
Right.
be shooting. So we present the concepts, and his team's like, oh, we're not going to do any basketball. So we're like, okay. So like, this was in a 2 week time period. We had to come up with this, figure it out. So we rewrote all the scripts that night, came back, new ideas, love it, do it. And you're able to lock in all these locations in San Francisco, film it. And, the agency, the reason we got it, because the big agency that was the AOR of the
Mhm.
company was like, we can't pull that off. It has to be a later date. And we're like, this is the only day that Stefan can film. And so for us, it was a huge win. I mean, it's like we hustled and worked, crazy hours and brought in as many people as we could to make that happen. And, something we're super proud about. It's like super fun. So
Yeah.
I think that's something that we really strive to do. I think that's kind of, we're almost like the SEAL team coming in to like fix some problems when it needs to be fixing.
Interesting. Um, so do you so I believe there's a lot of enjoyment working when there's a tight schedule and you have 6 days to create this crazy project. There's a lot of energy and adrenaline. It's like, oh, what if we fail? We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna let Stefan Curry down or something, right? So we should make sure that it's done. But then do you guys also are comfortable working in the normal schedule, like when like, the projects are fine? Or the reason I'm asking you this because I'm one of those people that if things are if things are fine, I feel uncomfortable. I feel like something is wrong. So I'm always
Mm-hmm.
looking some challenges and some fights to be in because I'm like a wartime CEO type of person.
Totally.
You and Sean are these type of people, or you just kind of if there's a fire, we can work with that, but typically we don't like that.
I mean, I think we like. I think I'm similar. I think I like it when it's a little crazy. And there's something about it. You know, there's something about that I really like. There's also the other part that I really don't enjoy because something that we've heard a lot is like, that's amazing for the time for the amount of time you guys had. That's amazing that you could pull it off, which is a positive and a negative. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
well, if I had, you know, 10 times more time, would it be 10 times more better? Like, and some
yeah,
of the times, like, I don't necessarily know. Like, and so, like, not that I think when projects go normal, but then they kind of go too long, I think everyone kind of loses momentum. And like, everyone,
yeah,
no matter if people love that structure, it's like everyone kind of gets off, and like, I think the project really suffers. And so we definitely try to keep it tight and pushing forward. And partly it's, we want to get these things out of our plate and onto the
mhm,
client's side. Um, but too, I think it's just, if it
yeah,
lingers too long, it kind of gets a little muddy. And I think not that we want to have fires all the time, not that we want to have like insane pressure, but I think that pressure
mhm,
is really good. And what happens with that crazy pressure, like right now, we're insanely busy, and we keep on seeing areas of like, oh, this happened, and like, it's like those little mess ups. But I think when that pressure happens, you start seeing where your cracks are at. And you're like, okay, how do we go back and fix that? We need a different process for this.
yeah,
We need to like, we've kind of been, like when it's slow, it's easy to kind of let things slide. When things are, under pressure, like
intense.
we're like,
Yeah,
okay, well, I need to fix that. So I think it's good to have that. I think it's the good ebb and flow. If we were constantly putting out fires, I think we'd probably have a big turnover, and I would probably
yeah.
have a panic attack probably eventually. But
Yeah, you definitely need a normal level of stress,
yeah,
sometimes more, sometimes less, but there should be always some kind of pressure coming in, testing you guys. All right. Um, You've been you've been in running the company in this for like 10 years. How did the way you guys are looking at your ICP change over these years? Have you been always in same industries, same customers and just growing within and just adding more better brands? Or you guys changed the way you guys are looking at the ICP in generally, the clients that you work with?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, I mean, it's changed pretty dramatically kind of over the years, especially as we started as a production company, started seeing, hey, we're actually really good at creative. Let's start writing and doing production. And then we started saying like, well, there's a lot of things we want to kind of expand on that production and make it more a holistic 360 ad. And then we started adding the media buying side of it as well to
Mhm,
kind of, to seeing like we're handing it off to people, agencies, and we would hear from them. How is this performing? Is this not performing? Can we do something better to learn from that? And so,
mhm,
as we've grown, we've added more services, and I think each time the clients kind of change. With that, you might be able to, our core services kind of stick with, like they have Fiverr, we've been doing that for a long time,
mhm.
and sometimes it's hard to kind of get past your other, like kind of offer your other services to that. So like,
Right.
I think, our ideal client is really kind of changing and trying to find, and two, we kind of went through a time where we did some really big projects, and then, that kind of died down. And then we're a smaller agency, so we're like, okay, how do we show this, but in a way that's accessible for people that would use an agency like our size and what
Yeah.
we can pull off. And so we're always constantly trying to morph that and change that. And I think,
Mhm,
even for us right now, this year is really honing in even more like, okay, like we want to go after these kind of really clients that are aggressive in growth, but also there's a couple industries that we really want to focus on that we feel like we could do really well and really dominate in that industry.
mhm.
So let's develop content and material for that. Um, but I think, yeah, it's definitely, and I think as we grow and learn, it's like we see things we're not good at and we want to be better at, or see things that we try to do that weren't successful. It's like, let's not do that anymore. And so it's kind of
Mhm.
evolving for us. And I feel like it's never
Yeah.
finalized.
This change that you experienced with regards to adding in new services and just because of a bit changing the positioning, how did it affect your business model? Can you speak to the way you guys are structured your business model right now, and how did it change over the years under this effect of this the
Totally.
ICP change?
A lot of times, production companies are really per project. So like you might
Right.
have a client where, some of our clients were doing hundreds of videos for them a year. Some of our clients were doing one video a year or every 2 years, and so it was hard to really kind of get consistent. We always wanted that retainer type client, but it was really hard to pull off, and especially at our price point with just production. And I think adding in, when we started adding the media side of things, that really started getting more of the retainer side, and we still could do some project base. So we still have like like the production is really still project oriented. We might have retainer where you can like kind of pay for it over time, um, but
Mhm.
it's really kind of more that project. And there's we make money off that. There's certain ways we make money, and then on the media side, that's we're doing a lot of other, might do some work from the paid side. It might be SEO side for a client, it might be developing their website, and that's more retainer kind of steady um, base. And I think it definitely helps both of those help each other a little bit on our uh,
Mhm.
kind of how we're built and structured for our compensation. But yeah, I think that's definitely developed quite a bit. And I
Okay.
think it's ideally it would be we get most of our clients in retainer. That would be the ideal for us. But it probably won't happen. But hopefully we get closer and closer.
How does the retainer work? So I pay like a monthly retainer for an X deliverables, like a video or something. Like, is that the case, or there's like some kind of maintenance support or something?
Yeah, so it's kind of each company's a little bit different. We don't necessarily go about it, like where you pay X amount and you get like a one video per
Yeah.
month. A lot of our stuff is very custom, so like it's we're really tailoring it to the brand, and so like it's hard to just have generic numbers. So what we might do is say, here's in the beginning, here's like our creative ideas we want to go after, agree on that, great. Here's the budget for those creative ideas.
Mhm.
And if we're doing media as well, maybe we say like, okay, so like, this is gonna here's the target goal where we're gonna shoot. So this budget each month is gonna go towards paying for that. And then we'll have some on the post side that'll kind of cover that rest of that. So kind of expand it out. And then there is some like maintenance in the sense of like this client management and that stuff that's consistent. But then the media is really, there's the fee on top of the paid side. So we have the media and then their agency fee that help manage that. So that's kind of ongoing, kind of more standardized on that side. But
Mhm.
we haven't really cracked the code of like doing high level kind of commercial productions in like being like, hey, give us 10 grand a month and, we'll create this content for you. It's like,
Right.
it's just too difficult for what we're doing.
Yeah. Right. But then having the combination of those, right? Like just mixing them up would obviously help you to have a better cash flow,
Definitely.
right?
Oh
But at the
yeah.
same
Yeah.
time, coming in with some project work that would provide you with the growth, with the capital needed to be able to build up the revenue over the
Hmm.
year, right?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
how do you acquire customers? So like, obviously, I found you guys on Clutch being one of the best agencies there. What else you guys are doing in terms of the acquisition? Um, yeah, so let's start with this. Like, how do you acquire customers?
Hmm.
What do you guys do usually?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, Clutch has been a big thing for us, just the directories in general, and we've actually expanded out to a bunch of other directories and kind of investing in those as well. We've done a lot on SEO for our site. We get a lot of traffic to our site. Um, and, I think that's been helpful. We actually had a few, one of our clients was Lemonade Insurance, which is a kind of US based startup that came in, Tel Aviv based, that was based in New York. And then we started working with them. One of our pages, we just featured some of the stuff we did for them, got a ton of traffic, and we got a lot of big inbound leads from that,
Hmm.
which was really surprising at the time. This was about 7, 8 years ago, and to start seeing like, hey, SEO is really could be really powerful in our industry, and so we've done a really good job of case studies, our work we're doing, talking about it, getting that online, so that does bring a lot of traffic in, and then the directories has been pretty significant. We're getting into we'll be doing a little bit more paid media as well this year, just because we're doing a lot for our clients and we're seeing a lot of success. We want to be able to apply that to us as well. Um, and then, we've had business development people, we've had salespeople, we've had like big kind of cold outbound types, maybe big email campaigns that have had
Hmm.
very little success.
Hmm.
So like, we're still trying to figure out what does that process look like. So I think I mean, to me, it's a big, like it's referrals too. Like, I mean, it's taking your existing clients and always being super engaged,
Hmm.
and I think it's past clients. I mean, I think we do a good job of staying, staying with our clients and staying engaged. And like, even if they died off for a while, re-engaging them. One of my mentors from a long time ago has always said, starting out, is like, if you have a client that's, not in your location, always fly and meet them, always fly and meet them. And at the time I was like, man, that's so expensive. Like, how can we pull it off? And
Yeah.
like, now it's like, we're constantly doing trips just to be, like go hang out with the client, do a bunch of meetings, come together. But that relationship in person, I think, is really key if you can pull it off. And it's just, this is definitely a little level of touch points there. And I think,
Hmm.
providing, gifts for maybe the holiday season, just being really a part of their lives and trying to connect, and like using text message is, I think, the big, like for us, it's like, if you're not engaged with a client, you have to be texting with the client, like it's that kind of engagement. So I think you have the new customer, but I think a lot of
Hmm.
our existing customers, they move. There's people are moving a lot. So like, there's new companies that come, we can get there. So we try to, you try to meet everybody you need to in their company there, stay in contact. They move, you meet that new person. So like, that's been, especially when you in
Hmm.
business. I mean, I'm sure you have this too. Like, when you're in business as long as you have, like, people are moving like crazy, and like, you can really build
Yeah.
out these other companies um, to do that.
How
So.
How does your acquisition team look, or marketing team and sales team look? Like, what are the, again, going back to the previous point when you mentioned that you guys don't do the jack of all trades, but sometimes you kind of combine several things with one person, right? So then
Mhm.
you mentioned a lot of things about the marketing. Obviously you guys are good with paid, but then you did SEO and then you do directories. And then you mentioned flying in, and then so you work on the retention of the customer. So
Mhm.
who are the roles? And then yeah, so what's the division responsibilities there for you?
So like, the three partners really are been tasked with I mean, keeping those relationships going. We have a couple
Okay.
account managers that help with that, but at the end of the day, I think it's people like, the needle really pushes with us. Like, we see change and we see progress when we're able to meet with someone, and you might be like, we might jump in on set. Like if we're not, we're not part of it, we'll come and meet the client, hang out with them a little bit, just build that relationship.
Hmm.
And then, upkeep on stuff. It's kind of getting systems in place where, for instance, YouTube is a big thing because we do a lot of video content. So it's when, the editors are making all the exports for clients, we're also making our version, which is like, our YouTube in card, and like we're able to get that all uploaded and situated. So then we can upload it super fast. And like everything's kind of like, it's that thoughtful process of we're creating for the client, but we're also marketing at the same time. And in a bigger shoots, we'll bring people on outside that help shoot and edit, like maybe behind the scenes, because like sometimes we just kind of you get so locked in the commercial you forget to do that stuff.
Hmm.
So we'll kind of ebb and flow. We might kind of outsource a little bit of that stuff, but then just keeping content up. I mean, that's we have teams that people that are doing stuff for our clients. Will have like a little bit of time each week that they kind of spend on the
Right,
site,
allocate to each other.
and exactly, and kind of redo that. Um, but I think the big, I think the meetings and the interaction and like just like the client touch stuff, I think is mainly done by the founders. So
The founders. Got it. All right. Can you give me an idea of some metrics? Like, do you guys measure customer acquisition cost, lead acquisition cost, or any of the cost? Because again, people are curious about how much would that cost to acquire customers like that and
hmm
doing all the bunch of things, because not many boutique agencies, even with good margins or with good check, can allow themselves to have a full-fledged marketing campaign with like paid ads and SEO, right? It's very expensive, right? And
hmm
all that stuff. So what's the CAC bid for you if you measure it?
yeah, I think for us it's really, well, a couple things. One is it's keeping our margins really, I mean, like really solid. So we have a big, we know going in, we know our minimums. Like that's kind of weeding out a lot of clients that just don't meet our minimums. I think
Yeah.
when we take on jobs that have done that, like that's just throwing everything off. So like having a really good margin, being super tight on that side. So then when we're acquiring these clients, we can actually invest. There's a good portion that we can really invest in, because how we look at it is, our average client cycle is 3 years. So like
Mm-hmm.
most of our clients have been with us, there's a 3 year time. So like
Hmm.
we calculate how much, the average one is brought in, what we made on them in over a 3 year period. So we see that kind of
Hmm.
lifetime value and say it's worth investing this much
Yeah.
in them to keep them. But also we see that when we do that, that actually goes to, maybe the next referral, or goes to, their next place they can work.
Hmm.
When we're actually doing paid side of things, it's been, we're still figuring out like the SEO has been interesting, because it's like there's times where it's like this is really working well, and other times where it's like this is not working hardly at all. Like we're it's all we're getting is people asking for jobs. Like if you, especially when you're like rank high on, and I'm sure you have too. It's like, and the amount of job inquiries we get each day is like mind-boggling. I'm just like, holy cow, like we're not even hiring. It's like, and so I think people are using those directors to kind of find that, and I think. Um, it's sometimes it's hard to really assess like how is this
Yeah.
working. The good thing has been majority of like our good leads have been substantial clients that
Hmm.
have come from that. So that, I mean, our SEO has been paid for, for years. I mean, we'll keep on doing what we're doing. It's been paid for probably for 5 years already. So like, um, I think that's kind of how we kind of think of that. And I
Hmm.
think partly I think we also want to get better at too, is like, really honing in, having all that data and making sure that we're like dialed in to
Yeah.
where, and that's going to be one of our paid efforts. We need to have a better idea of that. And I think that's kind of what we're formulating right now.
So I love actually the answer. So you basically are looking at the LTV, because you know that you've been working with the customer. You will be working for 3 years. You know that you're gonna make off the money that you've spent, and then you're just looking at to how we can acquire the right customer for us, right? Like that would be a good fit. Growth companies, they would ready to be creative with us and so forth. Love that. So when you look in all of those channels as the pie. So what percentage of customers usually comes from your organic, from directories, from the paid, from direct sales? If you can give me any idea of like, again, just rough percentage. Because when you
hmm
say like the SEO is doing very good, is it like 50% of the clients good, or it's like 25% of client?
it's the SEO doing good, meaning like how much income has come in, like how much profit we made
The
versus how much we spent. So like that's
no, no,
kind of
no,
the
no, more, like, as, what percentage of leads or
business
customers
totally.
you attract from the total, yeah.
So we're right around about 20% of our clients right now have come in from SEO directories. Um, and probably about another 20% have been from referrals. Uh, and then probably another 10% have been us pursuing someone. And the rest have been just like kind of existing clients that kind of been with us and, maybe they've been, just some ancillary thing. We had a couple of customers from a business development person, so like they've been around. Um, but yeah, I think that's how I would kind of break those down from there.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Appreciate the numbers. Then when you mentioned that the margins should be good to be able to afford these things, so what's the typically good for the industry? Is it like 40%? Because we from different industries, so we might have good for us would be different. But
Hmm.
what kind of what's the typical bottom line that if you were me, you would look at in terms of this is the minimum that you need to make to be okay, and this is where you need to go as the aspiration point.
Yeah. So I think, media is definitely a lot tighter. We're looking at 5 to 15%, is like
Mhm.
your margin on that. Um, so much leaner on that. On the production side, especially the more we can do it in-house, when we start getting, it really is weird because like different project sizes can really affect the budget when you do, say you have a massive crew, sometimes those bigger productions will eat up and you'll have like maybe 30% margin. We try to keep those bigger ones at the 50 to 60% margin every time. And then the more ones we could do in house, we try to keep any outside expenses down to 20%. So like 80%
Right.
is the money is in house. So like, um, we're not necessarily calculating. We're adding up everyone's post time and all that kind of stuff to see kind of the burn on that. But really, we never want to spend more than 20%. From like talent, locations, outside crew, any kind of like any other vendors. So it's right around 80% for us on that. Um, in certain projects, we'll go. I mean, if it's for a project we really, really want to do, and they're really pushing us, we'll go 50-50, where it's
Mhm.
like we might spend 50% of that on the actual production. But at that time, you're kind of like, it's tough to like, I mean, you're hardly, I mean, covering employees and covering everything else. You're like, you're not really, you're not really able to grow in that stage as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay. So, what's been your North Star, or success metrics in terms of, like, internally and externally? Something that one metric that you look at to understand how you guys are doing, how good you're doing?
I mean, I think it really is. Just kind of the projections. So like the financial, like how like where we're at, like profit wise, kind of over the a 6 month, year long run is kind of our big indicator for how we're doing. I think a lot of that comes from, I think that is kind of that metric is big for us, just because we can say like, okay, do we need to increase our costs? Do we need to cut and save more and spend less on these projects?
Yeah.
Do we need to find more clients? And usually the answer is all those, really.
Yeah.
But I think for us, it's seeing, like that kind of number really being like, okay, like this is our runway. This is where we're at for the next 6 months to a year, and having
Mhm.
those projections laid out, I think is really important. We just came from a season where um, like that project, it was with a company that went bankrupt, and so we had to like they became huge for us, and so we had to lay off a
Mhm.
bunch of people, and like our income went way down, and I think for us we were really like, okay, like now it's a rebuilding and making sure like we want to make sure that we're good for the next year, and we have a good vantage point for that.
Mhm.
And we're smart about how we're doing this. And then I think too, that's the retainer thing is really we've got smarter because we're like we need to have that consistent income. So I think building that out has been
Yeah.
helpful for us.
One final question before I let you go, Chris. And I'm sure you will. I'm sorry if you will stay for 2 minutes longer.
Go for it.
If you were to do it one more time again, what would you do differently? Like two,
Hmm.
three things that you would do differently now, having 10 years of experience back, doing it from scratch.
Yeah, I think Good question. I would definitely, I think there's something that kind of changed the way we thought about some things. One was don't bid against yourself. And a lot of times it's like you think about like, okay, like here's the value we're going to provide. Here's the number we want to do. Like, no, we can't get that. We can't do that. You kind of start bidding against yourself and like bringing that number down. And there's been times, a couple times where we said, you know what? We're just going to go for it. We're going to go big and we're going to go way bigger than we should have. And those times actually paid off big time. And I think, um, you know, that's been a big learning. And like it's hard to get there, but I think it's, being bold and knowing your value and being confident in that and saying, like, you know what, this is going to, they don't know if it's bigger than what it is, but like you're telling a story and like if you can pull it off, and you have to pull it off first after that. But I think it's really kind of valuing that. And then I think, when it's another thing is too, like I said, we had a big kind of up and then a down. I think it's, we try to, it's hard, in a period where we had a lot of staff and like all of a sudden work got really slow, but we kept everyone on because we're like, we had this big carrot kind of coming, it's going to save the whole thing. And we really should have changed the structure of the company earlier on. And that cost us a ton of money. And, I think that's something where you have to be a lot, I think for me, like I have to be a lot quicker with adapting and not hang my hat so much on this carrot that could potentially happen, but like knowing the numbers, living in the reality and adjusting. I think you have to really adapt for that. There'll be times where you're getting better. I think the last thing is really, I wish I could have done better on really understanding our unique offering, in the beginning and really honing that in even more and telling a story cohesively in a way that's, super dialed in, great sales pitch. I feel like we've been just learning that for years. And like, I know it's a learning, but like I could have done a lot better to really advance
Yeah.
the stuff in the beginning. And I think we would have progressed a lot faster.
Love that. Chris, thank you so much for joining me today, being part of the From Zero to Agency Hero. You guys rock, and I would love for us to have more time. So I'm sure that the listeners would want to vote for part two of this because I do want to learn more about you. And you've been guys doing fantastic work. You have fantastic case studies, and just excited to see what comes next for you and for Colormatics. So thank you so much for the time, man.
Thanks
Appreciate
so much,
it.
Michael. Appreciate it.